Welcome back, New School Sensei Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Douglas. Also, Ken Douglas here. And we've got Colby Allen. I was going to say Colabate for some reason. Sorry,
I feel traumatized. I'm triggered.
So we got Colby in the house, Pan Pacific champion, one of the black belts here, AAT, runs the kids program. So if you don't know, Australian Elite Team were the top Australian team for the last 11 years.
Boom.
So you got a lot of, awesome athletes coming through. You got the Meso boys, Tomei, you've got obviously Colby, you got Big Zach, you got a whole heap of people. Now, Colby runs the kids program, and he's bringing up that next lot of athletes coming on the scene. We had a bit of a joke before. Previously in the kids class, you would just chuck them a blue belt and then just go with it.
It was sort of known as like the bottom of the barrel sort of job. It's if someone wants to make it out, they want to train full time. Coach, all right, mate, we got the kids class twice a week. There you go. And also a bit of cleaning on the side, and that's how they did it.
Yep.
So, I was a bit surprised to hear that you're actually running the kids program. I thought it would be someone like Lewis, who's, I don't know how old he is, 18, 19. He's working security on the weekends. He should be running some kids classes.
He's got the energy for a kids program. He'd probably be pretty good.
For the sake of future generations, I've stepped up and saved them from Lewis.
The parents should be saying thank you, mate.
I hope so. If only they knew. If only they knew. Well, look, it is funny that you say that because that was literally my my introduction to teaching kids was back when I literally got given a blue belt and then that week got the tap on the shoulder from coach. Hey pal, you want to run some kids classes for us?
Mop as well.
Mop in hand, blue belt in the other, and yeah, away we go. So literally that is kind of what it was like for me. And I had taught kids when I was playing soccer and that, coached kids before, so I had a little bit of experience going in. But yeah, man, back in 2014, I think, at my old gym, I started teaching kids, and it was literally
a long time ago.
Yeah, it was literally as a blue belt when I wasn't all that good at jiu-jitsu, but I get on well with kids. I could talk to them, have a bit of fun, and man, we only had 8 kids then. It was really, really small.
Do any of the kids still train?
Well, that stable back then was Connor Pettis and Tommy Pettis, who are, absolute animals now.
I don't know much about Tommy, but I've seen Connor fight.
Yeah, so Connor fights. Connor barely loses ever in jiu-jitsu. He's, now a 1-on-1 amateur MMA fighter. Tommy is a weapon of a boxer, truly a weapon of a boxer. He's gone more, that route, but if he ever came back to jiu-jitsu, he would still hold his own, no doubt.
He's making more money.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember seeing Connor and Tommy at Sam Parker's, rest in peace.
Yeah,
and
rest in peace, Sam.
My only memory was Connor bashing Tommy every single session.
Yeah.
No mercy.
What's the age gap between these boys?
2 years, but bro,
is Tommy older?
When your big brother, who's older between you boys?
I'm older by 3 minutes.
See, you know then. Yeah, 100%. That 3 minutes, it makes a difference.
100%,
mate.
Yeah, those two boys, absolute weapons. We had the Fisher boys, Jet and Cage.
In your program?
Yeah, so we started with, bro, I can show
Dude,
you.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
You might have to show some evidence, because that's quite a stable, man. Because those boys are guns.
Yeah, so, man,
You've seen them in the UFC, surely.
Yeah, we had quite a little team. And I inherited those boys, right? Back when they were maybe grey, yellow belts. I think Connor might have been a yellow belt. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But we had super talented but small group of kids. Yeah, I just got really into it. I really liked working with talented kids. And then we kind of built the program around them. We split it into, a junior and a senior program where we'd have the 4 to 6 or 7 year olds at, one time, and then we'd have the senior kids. So 7 onwards from then on. And yeah, it just blew up. We just had a lot of kids at one point. So I was teaching there at my old gym from 2014 until just after COVID. We didn't quite recover from the lockdowns. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we just lost so many kids. We were doing, I don't know if you boys were doing this, probably for striking it's a little bit easier, but we were doing Zoom classes in my backyard, where I would have my iPad set up and, 25 kids in the Zoom room, and we would do solo drill jiu-jitsu.
Invisible jiu-jitsu, it's back.
Mate.
It's back.
It was tough times, boys, tough times. But it was just to give the kids something a little bit different than what we were doing then, because it wasn't good back then. We had a fair few kids that were really really struggling, and then even when we came back, going from not having any social engagement to like coming back into a gym, we lost a lot of kids just from them having like anxiety and stuff afterwards. Definitely. I don't know if that's reflected in your experience as well. And yeah, it was really difficult. I don't know, again, like you guys obviously lived through the same thing, but we had heaps of times where like we'd open for 2 or 3 weeks and then another lockdown.
Yeah, it was tough, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they would keep being like, what do we have, like 6 or 7 lockdowns, whatever it was. So we would come back for a couple of weeks. All right, guys, it's over. Like, we're back into it. Just shut it down.
Jiu-Jitsu was probably the worst sport when...
Because you can't social distance.
Yeah. Karate was a little bit easier for us because we could spread everyone out. Yeah. We could train outside, all sorts of stuff.
So Jiu-Jitsu, we did that. We trained outside.
Yeah. On the grass? Or?
No, we put kids... We had like a concrete car park out there. And we put the mats down.
Yeah.
And they would say that... So, like, Jiu-Jitsu, you can't socially distance it, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, it's grappling. Like, you literally can't socially distance it. But they would say that we could do Jiu-Jitsu in the car park.
Yeah.
Because it's
outside.
It's outside, but you couldn't do it inside.
Yeah.
So we brought the mats out, did that, and, yeah, we were making do at that point. But, yeah, from 2014 till, like, 2019, we had a powerhouse of a kids team. We did really, really well.
And now you sort of transition and now you're running the program here.
Yeah, so essentially after COVID, like at that point I was doing my master's in osteo, and I just, like, I'm very all or nothing with my energy, and I could feel I just didn't have the time and the energy to like do my master's, teach kids, train and compete, which I was still trying to do then. So I had to step away. And to be honest, because like, and I mean, you guys all have this too. You got like that core kids team that you take up and you get like really attached to them, and like, that kind of bond that you have with them, and you help them through life and stuff. That's kind of why you do it. And then once, we'd kind of lost that, I just kind of lost a little bit of passion for it. And in my head, that was going to be the last I ever taught kids.
So you got that knock on the door again, tap on the shoulder.
Yeah, literally the tap on the shoulder. Yeah, so AET has had a kids program for many, many years.
Is that a bit of a revolving door of coaches?
Yeah.
Everyone's had a crack at it.
Yeah, everyone's had a crack. And honestly, it's just never really succeeded that much in term, like, commercially, right? Which is obviously important for a gym. Like, let's be honest.
It's the lease on this place.
Boy, fit out.
100%. Like, obviously we're delivering an authentic experience. My role is to make sure the kids are engaged, they're actually learning things, they're doing jiu-jitsu and having a good time, right? But at the same time, we also want to like ensure that commercially that program's successful and is supporting the gym. So for years, that program's been running, and we've had some, like, the Mesos came out of that program, right? The Mesos have been training here since they were like 5 or 6 years old, and now they're both like 2 of the best black belts in the country. So clearly, like,
they would have come out of any program though, yeah. Those boys, outliers.
Well, I mean, look, those 2 boys are different, but like, you know what I mean. We've had,
there's been some
we've had some success stories, but the program overall has always kind of struggled.
What's the secret sauce? How have you guys?
Well, look,
revamped
when
it?
Obviously, we've got the new gym now, and they were trying to take things a little bit more serious. And yeah, I told them no quite a few times, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I literally did tell them no quite a few times. The reason for that being, like I said, I'm very all or nothing. So I know if I'm going to run a kids program, I'm not there to like rock up a few days a week and like...
Twice a week.
Yeah, and like, oh guys, here's some scissor sweeps, you know what I mean? And just like...
Yeah, scissor sweep, always.
I mean, like, that's not... I'm not
Hip
there...
sleep.
Yeah, I'm... to quote, someone quite famous, I'm not here to take part, here to like take over, you know what I'm saying?
That's
so
it.
like, I'm not just gonna like take a class to babysit a bunch of kids and like the program just kind of like treads water for however long. So I told them, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it proper. So that's why I said no, because I know what an investment that is, and I at that point wasn't ready to do that. And then as the move got closer, Ninos and the boys put the hand on the shoulder and were like, son, next soldier over the wall, you just get in there, mate. And I was like, okay. And since then, like literally as soon as I got back into it, I was like, this is cool. And I'm not going to be able to do it forever, obviously, with life and all those things that get in the way. But my role is, over the first probably 1.5, 2 years of this program, to make it self-sustaining, which obviously you guys have done well. Once you hit that critical mass of students, good culture, good coaches, and good structure, it will sustain itself forever.
Who's the second in charge?
So I have
under your wing.
No, actually, guys, we've invested heavy. So Michael Tomei is doing it with me.
What?
Yeah. So
these kids are lucky, mate.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know,
Two
Michael
top
Tomei,
black belts teaching
the
kids.
OG, Michael Tomei, the OG black belt, general
Wow.
of AET. He's helping me,
And he's got kids too.
He does.
He's got a lot of them.
And Abby Julian is
Wow, one of the top females.
Absolutely. And that was a
3 coaches.
yeah. So that was a key thing. Well,
You guys gone all in.
So
Yes.
it's not just, like a blue belt and a couple of dads that help out.
no. So essentially, like, we really wanted to get a female to help us out. We've got females in both the classes. So in the junior class, we've got Rebecca, who is a purple belt, coaches, like, she's got her own school going on. She helps out with the junior class. She's really, really good at that. And we've got Tana Basaka. It's Turkish. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm
So you got a
really,
few
really sorry,
assistants
Tana.
too. You got 3 main.
Yeah, so those 2 look after the junior program, and they're really, really good at it. And I also have Ryan Braish, who helps me out for the no-gi class. I've handpicked a lot of people that not only do I want to help me, like, run the class, but I also want to, like, develop their coaching skills and then feed that back into, like, the wider ecosystem. Right?
So you've talked about the program. That it's definitely not 2 days a week. What's the schedule?
No, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday for Jiu-Jitsu, and then Monday, Thursdays, MMA fundamentals for kiddos.
Do you teach that as well?
No,
MMA?
so Tommy Gunn and Ryan Braish do.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
So the key thing is that, like, we're showing that we have an investment in the kids program, right? And that we're using that to, one, develop kids. Number one, like, we're trying to make it commercially viable, right? And, like, have that obviously do well for the overall gym. 2, we're trying to, like, provide a service to kids to give them some empowerment, give them a safe space to learn some new skills in. And also, we might get a handful of them that end up pretty good at jiu-jitsu and grappling and then, come into the adult comp team. But 3, I really want this, like you say, you give a blue belt the keys to the castle and a mop on the weekends, and you're just like, yeah, mate, have at it. That shouldn't be what it is. This should be a vessel to develop people's coaching skills so that by the time they get to black belt and they'll be teaching themselves, they already have all these years of coaching skills built up.
100%.
Right? So we get them in young. I, at first, give them quite a lot of help developing their coaching skills and stuff, and then we give them the keys. Like guys, run this yourself. Do it in your vision. I will obviously, make adjustments where I feel is needed, but I try to give them, like, a bit of empowerment to actually coach a program. So that's, like, the overall kind of, like, theme and goal of that kids program. We started with 25 kids on the mat overall. Now between the 2 classes we get like 60 and a bit. Like,
that's crazy on the mats.
Yeah, so that's what since March or so it's really, like,
so if you've got that big of a class, like, we're helping the guys out there. The class is gone for an hour, and you'll just run us through, like, how you go from, like, just from start of class to finish, how you run it.
So it was interesting because we had one of the black belts here who was running the class last year.
Yep.
And that was at the old gym, and at one point he was sick and a few of the boys were away, and I got the tap on the shoulder just to, like, fill in for a week while he was away. And I saw, unfortunately what the shortcomings were in how that class was being run and structured. And so I came into this kind of with an idea of what needed to be done. I wasn't just coming in blind, like, hey, like, I'll suss the kids out and then go from there, you know what I mean? So the key thing for me was structuring things properly. They just really lacked structure. They lacked the skills of, like, coach says this, we get into this shape, whatever. Those, like, fundamental skills, not only of jiu-jitsu, but of life. So when we start class, I call for the seniors. They line up in a certain position, which is just like the edge of the mat here. It's obviously hard to convey that. But the edge of the mat, they all line up, not in, belt rank or
Calling
whatever.
seniors just by age, or?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not strictly by age. On paper, it's by age, but it's just, I measure development. So, like, I look at their, like, listening skills, their coordination, you know, like, girls at, 5 or 6 are typically a little bit ahead of the boys. So we've got more girls that come up from the juniors into the senior class a little bit earlier. Some kids just, like, have a little bit of size on them. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, we can work with this. Like, we have a 6-year-old that's bigger than some of the 9-year-olds we have. And so I get him in because he'll be okay. You know what I mean? We can work with that. Because we have that structure between the two, I can sort of like yo-yo the kids between where they need to be, and you can kind of just like make a read on the kid on a given day. Okay, he needs to be like just having a fun day.
So you guys just
today.
have the one class, but you split it, juniors and seniors?
Yeah.
Oh, that's how you do it. Okay, that's cool. Because the math is so huge and you've got so many coaches.
We have the space. Yeah, so like, like I want to be like forthcoming. I can structure it in this way because we have like hectic resources. If you have a small
biggest
gym,
mat space you've seen in a while.
if you're running a garage gym, we can't do that, right? Like it's a different reality here. So because I have those resources, I can split the class at the same time, right? Which I think is helpful for commercial purposes because we have a lot of like siblings here.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier for them.
Yeah, and parents are pretty happy to just get in for an hour and like both kids are tended to, if that makes sense. Whereas like if you run junior class at 4:30 till 5:30 and then 5:30, 6:30 you do the seniors, mum and dad are like sitting on a bench for 2 hours. Nah. No
Especially
chance.
the benches here.
Especially the benches, Anyway,
Get a coffee.
yeah, I hear a Gladstone Park. And anyway, I shouldn't trash
Most
the
of
area.
the benches are actually in this room. I think they've taken a couple
Yeah,
of them.
they have. So, yeah, like, I try to structure it like that so that, mum and dad can get in for an hour, go get a coffee, both their kids are done, and they boot out.
I like that. So
Right?
what's you'd warm them up together, both groups together?
Nah. So, the senior kids will line up on this edge of the mat. Junior kids will be up the other end with Rev and Tanner. We put them on that, like, when you guys walk in, that mat closest to the door where most of the parents sit. Junior class goes next to them because they need mum and
Because
dad.
they're younger, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we give them kind of like the empowerment. Guys, if you need to go have like a little, go have a water, go have a cuddle with mum, well, that's fine. So we have them there, and then the senior class, I get them from that big line to line up in 3 or 4 lines at a different point on the mat, and then we go through our warm-up movements, which is just the same order, the same movements each and every time, so that these kids just know now where I need them to be. They know what line they're supposed to be in, they know what movement comes next, and then from there we break into conditioning. Again, they stay in their lines, and they're just going through these movements. So I like instill this skill of, I go here at this time, I do this at this time, done.
How come you're teaching the kids, like, the start of the class a lot different to the way you teach, like, people like us? You were saying in the last potty, you don't believe in warm-ups.
Yeah, so
For the kids.
It's not, the warm-up isn't for the sake of the warm-up. It's to teach them those structural skills. And I made that read just based on our particular cohort of students. It might be different at other schools. Like, I'm sure...
Well, if you got your eight students, you got Jet, you got
Yeah, exactly.
brothers,
Like,
they're pretty serious.
Yeah,
Connor.
so, back then, we didn't, like, really do warm-ups or whatever. We would just start with some, like, wrestling drills. You know what I mean? Like, those particular children didn't need those particular skills to be developed. I made the read that our kids did, so that's, I'm kind of, like, fluid with the shape I take, right? So once we go through there, then we'll do some conditioning with them. Kids are unfit these days, man. They're not fit. They're not fit. So, like, even...
What type of conditioning we talking about?
Let's go.
Yeah,
How many
so...
push-ups you guys can do?
Oh, so it's mostly like I'll get them just like doing hot feet, like on the spot, running quite hard for like a certain amount of time, and then I'll introduce movements in there, and I'm essentially teaching them we don't fully stop to rest, right? Like it's, yes, you're tired, you don't need to like stop to rest. You go back into that hot feet position, you keep moving, you keep getting your breath back, and then you go again, right? Not
It's like sprawls and stuff, and then back to...
sprawls, push-ups, planks, leg raises, like scissors and stuff, so...
It's very interesting. Instead of breaking, because what we would do, probably 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, 10 squat kicks, and you break, you're still running in between.
Because I would just find, and even like when they roll, they would get tired and then stop. Like, I need to lay down. I need to, like fully recharge. No, I'm not having.
You're working them, mate. I like it.
Yeah, I'm not having it. Like,
Nah.
And this was a key.
Not taking any crap from these kids. I like it.
Well, so here's the thing, and like this is going to make me sound old, right? But I started teaching kids when I was like 21, 22, and I'm 30 now, unfortunately. And I guess I see a difference in the generations, which again makes me sound really old. But back when I was first coaching, and maybe, you know, it's a different cohort, whatever it is, the kids were more active, they were fitter and stronger, and they could take more direct feedback, if that makes sense. And like when I was playing soccer, you know, we both know Aaron Ma. That's how I met Aaron Ma. Was playing
through soccer.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know, we would play soccer together, and we would get sprays when we deserved it. You know, like you stuff
Like a water spray, or
no, like you'd cop it from the coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
The verbal spray.
Yeah, like, you know, I was a goalkeeper back then. If I didn't pass the ball out in the right way that coach wanted, mate, there was a spray waiting for me. You know what I mean? You can't do that with kids now, and I just find that they need that little bit of hardening, right?
A push.
Yeah. So I don't know what that is. It was just something I observed, that the kids are way less fit than they were when I first started, and they lacked a little bit of like resilience to adversity. So again, we make that read, we structure the class to feed into what I felt they needed. And, you know, that's not going to be it for everyone. We've lost some kids, for sure. But overall, I think the parents are on board with like those traits that I've kind of identified, and that kind of feeds into the type of cohort that we have developed.
I like it. So what's the next part of the class?
So then we split the class up further. So in the senior class, I take the little ones, actually. The reason being that...
It's harder, yeah?
Yeah, it kind of is harder. It
Need
kind
your
of
best
is.
coach on the
100%.
So, like, I'll take the younger ones, and then I will, like, make the read when they're ready to transition up to, like, the senior class, if that makes sense. So it's still the same class on
levels
paper.
with the
Yeah,
like
levels.
a DDS. You got the juniors and
the
the seniors.
juniors, yeah. Hey, if they lose in comp, that's it.
Wow.
They're a junior
The
forever.
CDS. The Colby,
Yeah, if they lose an inter-club comp on a Sunday, that's it. Back to the junior class forever. But, no, so when, you know, we first started, we didn't have to do that because we had a smaller class. Now the spectrum of age and ability has kind of, like, stretched out a lot, right? And I'm sure you boys deal with this too. And actually, like, striking arts have kind of had that down pat for years, right? Like, how to kind of, like, teach a gradient of skill levels, which Jiu-Jitsu is really behind on. So I've kind of taken from that. We need to, like, gradually step these kids up in ability. So the one, they're not overwhelmed, and two, they're constantly being challenged. Yep. So I take the younger ones, I get the fundamentals in them, ensure that they're on point with their listening skills, all that jazz, and then...
So you're working through some technique?
Yeah, so technique, get them rolling. They still do everything. Like, the structure is not actually all that different to the other class.
You just added in a bit of the movements at the start.
Yeah, so less technical details,
yep.
less directness from me. Like Mickey and Abby, or when I go with the older ones, I can be much more firmer and direct with them in what I need from them. But with the younger ones, you got to kind of like, you know, just guide them to where you want them to be. And then when they're ready, they go up. And then we yo-yo them in between. Because, again, like, you want to challenge them without being overwhelmed. You want to just hit that, like, threshold of stress and stimulation and then feather it back, right? So, like, we've got some kids that'll do technique over that part, and then they'll come roll here, or they might do a few rolls over there.
It's very tailored.
Come back.
Very tailored.
And it's different for every kid. And it depends on, like, how they view themselves. I look at the family dynamic a lot. That's probably my main one. I probably should have talked about that at the start, but I really put a lot of time into kind of like, obviously you can't tell like what a family dynamic is like, you know, behind closed doors and that, but you can get a pretty good idea of, specifically related to, you know, jiu-jitsu or whatever you're doing, what kind of feedback they're getting from mum and dad. And then I can sort of base my approach to that kid based on what they're already getting a lot of. So like, as an example, we have a girl who's, you know, her dad's like quite hard on her, and you know, she's got some issues based off of that, you know, a bit of like a family life or a home life that is a little bit difficult at times. And so how I approach her and address her and speak with her versus how I would have Abby do that is very different. So as an example, if we need to challenge her in some way, it would not come from me or Michael. It would come from Abby, because we want that like those two male figures that she has to just be giving her love and encouragement and support and all that jazz. And then if, you know, she's falling short in one area or another or whatever it is, then we have Abby deliver that for us.
Some next level stuff. We don't normally talk about this sort of stuff, yeah, Lance?
Well,
Yeah,
it's important.
100%.
It's super important, especially like as kids get a bit older. Like obviously you don't really need that as much in younger kids, but especially, you know, when they start hitting those teenage years and things start getting a little bit hectic. And, you know, I'm studying teaching now too, and I've like been in
There you
schools
go.
and stuff in high school. So like I see the effect of what those family dynamics have on
Yep.
a kid.
What subject do you reckon you'll end up teaching?
Science.
PE? Oh, science. Okay.
Yeah, I'm majoring in science. So-
Anatomy.
Dang.
yeah, so science and health, and hopefully a little bit of English, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, because I see the effect and how that manifests, I try to make it a big point here to give those kids some extra support and give them more of like a tailored dynamic with us. Because you can't just like treat all kids the same. Like I've heard that before. That was actually the advice that I had when I first started, was be fair to all the kids, be equitable to all the kids, teach them the same. Nah, that's not it. I'm way harder on some kids than others.
Every kid's
way
different,
harder. Way harder. There's some kids that I really make earn every step. And I think that's super important.
That's super awesome. So then if we're talking about the class, do you finish it off with a game or rolling or
Depends.
what are you doing?
Depends. So like we have different themes that we have through the class. So if we're doing like stripes, for example, and we won't do a game, we'll just have them rolling all the way through, because then they're going to get that like fun, you know, kind of
the
like
end, yeah.
feedback at the end. We have days where we do super fights, which is where...
Super fights?
Yeah. Like, we didn't have a comp culture here when we first started, so what we started doing was super fights days, where I tell the kids in advance we're going to do super fights. And at the start of class, you know, once everyone's here, we line them up, I get everyone to close their eyes, and then I'm like, guys, if you want to have a match today, put your hand up. So there's no
nice.
shame.
Oh,
right?
There you
wow,
go.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So there's
Very
no
good.
shame if you do or don't put your hand up.
Because
right?
like if you're... Yeah, because you probably find some kids wouldn't rock up.
Yeah,
The
so
super fights,
we'd
yeah?
have that, but we'd also have like kids, at least this was in my head, we've always done this like in this structure, but in my head I was like, I don't want a kid to like look around and see everyone else is putting their hand up.
Yeah.
I'll do it, you know what I mean? And then they're not ready,
Yeah.
right? Your kid's either ready or they're not. Like, you can't force it. So I get them to close their eyes and then pop their hand up if they want to have a match today. And then if they do, I have them form like, you know, we've got the square mats,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like the square little rings or whatever. All the kids go in a square around the ring, and then I take like 20 minutes now because we have heaps of kids. They all put their name in. They do like a little fixture or like run, you know, like a little bracket, I guess.
Sean Shelby.
Yeah, and they all get one match each. And, you know, it's usually like 90 seconds, 2 minutes, depending on how old
That's
the kid
quick,
is.
mate.
Wow.
Yeah, you see at the start, bro, they gas. Like, that doesn't sound like a lot, but a kid that isn't, like, used to competing, and now they've got all the other kids around screaming and yelling and carrying on, they gas, bro. So...
I'll be gassing too. I'll be
Yeah,
gassing
straight
from-
up, straight up. Like, and this was a good way to sort of introduce them to competition. And
Wow.
now, like, we've got a lot of kids that have much better competition skills because they do this. So if we have a day like that, then we won't play games or whatever, but, you know, we're focusing more on comp structure there. With my group, the younger ones, sometimes I'll play a game. I don't always give them a game because I want them to, like, earn it, essentially.
Yeah.
With the older ones, no chance. There's no poison ball once you're over that other side, you know what I mean? Like, we're just not having it. You're there for a job, mate. You just can, you know, run around the gym and have fun afterwards, or go home, get on Facebook, and you have fun that way. Not interested here, mate. We're not doing
They
poison
banned
ball.
social media for people
They
under
did.
16.
They
so
did.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they'll find another way.
I'm sure they will, mate. Yeah, they get around everything. Trust me, I'm a school teacher, mate. I
Remember
know.
MySpace? Wasn't that like you had to be over 13 to use back in the day?
Oh, I can't remember, bro.
No one was
It's a
over
long
13.
time.
Yeah, but you
a
could
long
just
time
change
ago.
your date of birth, mate.
100%.
Like,
Mate, it sounds like you're running an absolute tight ship. Just to close it off, just say you got a coach. He has 100 students, and you know, and he's thinking about running a kids program. He hasn't got much time, so
Yeah.
you know, like he's quite exhausted, to be honest.
I feel like we're talking about someone specific here.
He's almost getting a divorce.
So, like, what would be
Typical
your
instructor.
main 3 tips if someone's going to start a kids program and they want to do it the right way?
So you have to have such a clear structure of how you want to run a class. if a kid sees that you don't know like what's coming next or like what you want to do, they start trying to take control of the situation. You know, like kids always want to like test how much control they can exert over different people, and unfortunately some kids are used to exerting that control over mum and dad, right? That's just unfortunately what the reality is. So they're going to test out, can I do it to this bloke? Nah. If they can, then they can't be in your class. Like if you're not skilled enough or just the vibe isn't there with that kid, they can't be there. Because if they exert control, other kids will see that and then they will try to exert control over you. So you can't. You can't
have to structure, actually plan them.
Yeah, you have to be on point with what you're doing, and then you have to establish yourself as the top dog.
Would that be number 2 or was that 1?
Well, I think that just comes with structuring things. Whatever amount of kids you start with, invest heavy into them, because once you build that critical mass of kids, it will just run itself.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
So you want to invest... if you've got... Like, I had 8 kids when I first started at my old gym, and we had probably... Like, we had 20, 25 kids on the mat when we first came, but some of them were tiny. They were like, 6 years old or whatever. So that core group of like teenagers we had, especially ones with some leadership traits, invested heavy into them. So that now you're starting to build like a little hierarchy on the mat, right? So that kids will come in, see we have a team captain that the kids just kind of naturally gravitated towards. We've put heaps of effort into him.
Who's the captain?
His name is Raymond. He's actually, he does the gi class with the adults now. He's
what a tank.
I think he's 15. Yeah, and like we just saw it. Like the kids all look to him. You know what I mean? Like he's wouldn't describe himself as a leader. I wouldn't think. He definitely didn't like choose that or pursue it in any way. We would see
him.
Yeah, we would see like if a kid needed help, yeah, they would look to Raymond. You know what I mean? So, or like if there was a kid who was kind of by himself, they would all just feel comfy with Raymond. So he's team captain. That's it. You don't, you don't
to meet him. That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't get to choose
leadership. Get him on the potty.
Mate. Get him on the potty, mate. He's a good kid. He's a really, really good kid, and he's a weapon.
So then your third tip for this struggling coach.
So once you build that critical mass, you need coaches around you. You
need the support.
Yeah, it can't just be you. And the thing is, well, like you can't be arrogant enough to think that you're going to be every kid's cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like we'll have kids on the mat that maybe they're sick of hearing me shout, mate, or they just don't like the sound of my voice, they don't like my jokes, whatever it is. I couldn't fathom that they wouldn't like my jokes, of course, but, kids are funny. Anyway, so you're going to have other people that have different skill sets to you. You still push them in the same direction that you want to go, but you can't think that your particular flavor is going to suit every kid. So once you get a certain amount of kids up and you can afford it, you give the blue belt a mop, and you're like, hey pal, come and feed back into the gym, you know what I mean?
Give me a chop out.
Yeah, straight up. So that way, they build specific relationships with kids, and then hopefully over the course of that first year or so, you've built yourself a nice core group of kids that really enjoy coming, whether they like you or they like your assistant coach, whatever it is, they feel a bond to the place and they will be there forever.
Smashed it, mate.
Wow, that was a masterclass. We scheduled this thing for 20. We're going almost 40.
Oh, damn.
We better get to training. Thanks so much, Colby. You're obviously coaching here, Australian A team, Tailoring. Any parents listening? Do you guys have any room on the mats? Or?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We have heaps of space. So, we're going to have to fill that up, and then...
You might need more classes, too. The way you're running this, building it, in less than a year... Wow,
Yeah, I think we're like 8 months in now, and it's going really well. So happy days, boys. Still trying to, achieve your levels of success, but
No, you'll be way above us, mate. Got that teaching degree behind you too, so wow,
Yeah, thank you, boys. Thank you.
There you go. So guys, you like that? Let us know. Subscribe to the channel. Like us on Spotify. We'll see you on the next one.